is Janice Seagraves. I have moved out of my office and into my bedroom, and I've given my office to my mother, so you're going to be seeing bits and pieces of my bedroom in the background there, including my very messy dresser, which I will address before the next podcast. Today, I want to talk about conflict in writing. Most writers know that to have an interesting story which draws the reader in, you must have conflict. Conflict literally equals story. One way to have conflict is to make your main character an underdog. Why an underdog? Because people love to root for an underdog. Remember Charlie Brown trying to kick that football? Didn't you root for him even though you knew Lucy would pull that ball away each and every time? That's conflict. Let's face it, no one wants to root for Ken and Barbie who live an idyllic life in suburbia. In my book, Windswept Shores, I have my heroine, Megan, have a really, really bad day. This is from Windswept Shores. If she had to spend one more day on this godforsaken island, she'd go stark raving mad. The thought spurred Megan into rolling a large log with one foot in the other until it was near the bonfire. God, this thing is heavy. With a grunt, she lifted one end until it teetered upright, then gave it a shove. It landed in the fire, embers swirling in the air. Breathing hard, she flicked a glance at the teal-colored sea. She thought a vacation to the Bahamas would be perfect, would be a solution to the problem she and Jonathan had faced. She had been wrong, dead wrong. The tears of grief filled her eyes. The never-ending crash of the waves on the beach and the cries of seagulls seemed to mock her, with a reminder that she was utterly alone. Another way to have conflict in a romance is to have newly divorced Ken, Barbie ran off with G.I. Joe, and who could blame her, have a really miserable day. That's conflict. Example, say Ken's Porsche breaks down on the road to work and he has to have it towed. As he waits impatiently for the tow truck, he mentally marks off all the things that went wrong that week. That's your conflict. Just after he comes to the fact that he is alone and unloved, the tow truck arrives, but a pretty woman steps out. It's PJ. The baggy coveralls can't hide her full figure, and the grease smudges on her plastic face can't cover up her lovely face or her Malibu tan. Maybe PJ's father or uncle owns the business, or maybe she owns it herself, or maybe she's not a tow truck driver at all, but a pickup service for a car rental agency. So Ken thanks his lucky stars that he spotted this beauty. But when he asks PJ out, she turns him down flat. Why? Conflict. No conflict, no story. Can't make it too easy on these boys. In my book, Windswept Shores, I have Megan alone on a desert island with Seth, until Seth washes up on the shore. The first thing he does is sniff her hair. Why? Conflict. Are you from England? Nah, he rubs his eyes. I hail from Sydney, but my port of call these days is Fort Lauderdale. He blinks up at her. You? Ah, he's Australian. I'm Megan Lowry from Anaheim, California, she said, barely loud enough to be heard above the sounds of the surf and the roar from the fire. Are you a survivor of Air Bahamas Flight 227 too? Good day, Megs, he answers, struggling to sit up. Sorry, I'm not from your plane. Meg slipped an arm around him and lifted his back off the sand. Turning his head to her hair, he took a couple of short breaths. Megan pulled back, staring at him. What the? Did you just sniff me? You smell too good not to, he grinned, causing his cheeks to dimple. Name's Seth Dawson. Whatever the conflict is, you've got to either keep it going or bring in some new conflict. New conflict is great, especially if you can overlay it with the old conflict. Example, Charlie Brown gets depressed about not kicking the football and visits Lucy at her psychiatrist's help booth. He'll tell her all his troubles. Then she basically calls him a loser. Why? For additional conflict. Lucy is the antagonist. Her job is to cause conflict. Back to Ken. He finally got PJ to go on a date with him. Everything is great in Ken's life, right? But what if her business partner doesn't like Ken and tells him so right to his face? Why? For additional conflict. That partner is the antagonist for Ken's life. He'll keep poor Ken on his toes for the rest of the story. In Windswept Shores, I have the wild pigs inhabit their island for additional conflict. They are the antagonist and keep my characters down, or at least running for their lives. You can't charge wild boars barehanded. They have long, sharp tusks, she frowned. The last time I ran across a wild pig, I had to climb a tree. He slammed his fist on the boat's railing. I should have taken the offal out last night and buried them. Opening a chest, Seth took out a spare gun. You know how to use one of these? No, I've only seen it on TV. She set the eggs on the swivel chair. It's just like on the box. You point and pull the trigger. Seth demonstrated, loading it with a long spear with a wicked-looking barb. What are you going to do? She took the spear gun. Seth pushed the pointed end away from him. I'm going to make a bull roarer. He brought out some heavy-duty fishing line, tying a pointed weight at the end of it. If I get charged, shoot. Try not to hit me. I'll try, she said softly. Try a little harder than that, love. He grinned and climbed down the ladder. Anyway, any way you put it, you have to have conflict in your story. Have conflict, and you got your story, and you pull your readers in. That's all I have for you today. Have a nice day. See you on the flip side. And while we're at it, can you, whichever side it's on, click the prescription button? Thank you, and have a great day.